Hi, I'm Guy Lawrence, and you are listening to the Guy Lawrence podcast. If you're enjoying this content and you want to find out more and join me and come further down the rabbit hole, make sure you head back to guylawrence.com.au. Awesome, guys. Enjoy the show. Luke, welcome to Member Spotlight and what eventually will be a podcast as well. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thank you, Guy. I really appreciate giving me the time and the space to sort of chat about the things I've been doing and the time in the group as well.
Yeah, look, there's one thing I've realized with this work, and for people listening, is that the power of seeing people like ourselves embracing this work and actually utilizing and creating change in our lives. I think there's definitely been an element of there's a lot of research, there's a lot of scientists, there's a lot of doctors, there's a lot of things out there, but quite often that can feel out of reach for us. That's what I found from my experience, and I think the greatest power is by giving people the microphone, by bringing people like ourselves to have conversations and share how this stuff can impact our lives. So brace yourself, man. I'm going to hit you with loads of questions and see where we go.
Go for it, man.
So, well, let's start with what attracted you to this work in the first place?
Into the group or the actual, like in just the work overall?
The work overall.
What really attracted me to meditation, or what got me into meditation to start with, was coming out of a period of depression and sort of really just existing for a period of time, for a few years, and then wanting to just find myself again and be myself again, and also having a need there to do something for myself and also for my family for the situation we were in at that time. And that's when I started meditating, and from there, the changes I felt just in a daily meditation practice were phenomenal to start with, and then the changes I felt from that and my family felt from that over the course of a couple of years had just led me to dive deeper and research more about this sort of work. And each time I sort of hit a bit of a block or a stumbling block with my meditation, where I think to myself, I'm not really seeing the changes that I used to see. And there's times there where I think, maybe is it worth it? But then instead of sort of backing off from it, I go, no, dive a bit deeper. And that draws me into another book or another podcast, and then it just rolls on from there. And each time I do that, I see the results and I feel the results from there.
What I got to ask you, mate, you mentioned depression. There's certainly an area of people out there that are struggling, that are attracted to this work. And one of the things I want to stress as well, for anyone listening, is that I think I look at this work as life enhancement. So even if you're in a good place, it's a great place to start from when you think, because there's an element thinking, I don't need work or whatever. I just wanted to stress that because that's coming in. But for you, why were you depressed, mate? Like, what was the catalyst for you? Do you mind me asking?
No, not at all. The depression came about, I suppose, essentially, when I reflect on it, is just a mindset that I had from childhood, growing up. I grew up in a household where it was a parent with a chronic illness, so it was always a stressful environment to be in. And then I sort of carried that mindset and the programming, I guess, through my life, and up until a point where I'd always worked really hard and pushed myself really hard for the things I wanted to get, but it culminated in a period of time when I basically achieved the goal I'd been working towards since I was 16, when I was 31, and it was almost to the second I signed the paperwork on what we'd bought, that it just, like the light bulb, sort of someone flicked the switch off, So what I put it down to was that I had the ambition to achieve these things, but I didn't have the mindset and the programming to go along with it, if you know what I mean.
What was the goal that you wanted to achieve?
Well, the goal was to, or we purchased a property. We live just on the outskirts of Melbourne. We purchased a property. We always wanted to live on acreage, and we achieved that goal, and we had a couple of kids as well. And when we achieved that goal, it's something I've been working towards for a long time. And I found that, it didn't do the things I thought it would do. It's like buying that car. It's not gonna sort yourself out. Yeah.
Okay. And then so you literally, like you said, you signed the papers. You've moved into your dream place, like whatever you've been visualizing for nearly 15 years. You achieved, and then there was still that feeling within you that wasn't the fulfillment you were hoping for, right?
No, it was immediately. There was no fulfillment immediately from the time of signing the paperwork. It was like a drop into a very dark place fairly quickly. So,
wow.
Which was a scary time, really scary time. Got 2 young kids, and I'm the support network for everyone. And you've chased your dream, and then you get there, and it's not quite exactly what you envisage. Yeah.
I think there'll be a lot of people that can relate to that. I know I was one of them for sure, mate, for sure. So was this then, did this then magnify that was already within you, like you talked about the depression? So was chasing the dream almost allowing you to hide from the deeper feelings that were always there?
Yeah, completely. What I sort of did as soon as I started work was I just worked. And I worked and took as much work as I could, and sort of really didn't enjoy the money that I was earning. I just pushed for the goal. I always just put it away rather than actually enjoying life. I just sort of had a tunnel vision for 15 years, really, I suppose. And that in itself stopped me from thinking about all the things that sort of troubled me, I suppose. It kept those off to the side with my focus firmly on a goal. And I guess as soon as I reached that goal, then the focus shifted to everything else immediately.
Yeah, of course. So then you, if that then started to magnify, like you say, what was inside, and you were feeling, very trapped and depressed. And I certainly know how that can feel like. When there's no options, what happened next? I mean, this went on for years, or did you pick up a book, or did you speak?
Well, initially I was very lucky to have a very supportive wife who basically understood, because I know a lot of people in that situation, partners or husbands or wives, don't necessarily understand what's going on. I was very lucky to have her. I saw counselling. I went and saw a psychologist, and did cognitive behavioural therapy, which was good, and it allowed me to draw myself out, and it was similar to meditation. It allowed me to draw myself out and look at what I was doing. And in those initial stages, probably for another 18 months to 2 years, it was a cycle of up and down. And as time wore on, the times in between the troughs got greater, and the troughs became not as deep. And I started to sort of pull myself out of it. But over that time, up until sort of 4 years from that period, I actually just only felt like I was existing. I didn't feel myself anymore. And we sort of got to a point where my wife was ready to move on and have more kids, and I was basically just existing. So I couldn't take any more on, which then led to the meditation. I needed to explore something else, and I needed to feel like myself again. Yeah,
totally. When did you stumble across me?
It was the start of this year in January, actually.
Was it? Yeah, right.
Yeah. So last year was a lot of learning and finding out about nutrition and health.
Beautiful.
And so I listened to a lot of Pete Evans' podcasts,
Oh, beautiful.
and I was quite interested in his experiences with psychedelics, and I actually wanted to hear him interviewed. And then, yeah, it was through you that you interviewed him on your podcast, and I was like, okay, what's this? So sort of started digging into your back catalogue of podcasts and that sort of thing. But it's funny enough that these things come around, because at the start of the year I set an intention to make contact and be part of a meditation community. And within a couple of days I listened to your podcast and sort of joined the group. It's funny how these things pop up. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, because I remember you came then to the workshop in Melbourne when I first met you afterward.
Yeah.
I think you were part of the group from there. Yeah.
Which was a great experience, because there was a lot of the things that I'd sort of been reading about. I hadn't really had any confirmation from anyone. And when I came to the workshop, I was like, I think I said to you, oh, it's so good to hear that other people are getting some benefit from this sort of stuff. And
yeah. Well, before, like, I'm intrigued to share the journey, because I've seen some amazing transformations with you, you know, along the way, especially coming to the retreat last month. But before I touch on that, before you got to the retreat and just from doing the work and getting involved with meditation and obviously my program, but obviously books and whatever content it is that's come in, like, what do you think have been the biggest lessons for you with that, with learning this?
The biggest one for me is that that happiness comes from within, and it's not an external thing. And that was probably the biggest lesson out of the initial stages of meditation. That if I found that I was happy with myself, then I'd be happy no matter what happens, regardless of the circumstances. So that's probably the main thing that I've got out of it. But then further than that, when you go deeper into the work, it's about the self-belief and also about discipline. I find it's about having the discipline to continue on and dive deeper into this sort of stuff. And then if you've got couple that with the belief and just observe the smaller changes along the way, then I just see the potential of this sort of work. It's limitless, really.
Yeah.
And the outcome really doesn't matter, because it's how you transform along the way that it's the real benefit of it.
Has anything surprised you with this work?
Yeah. Well, the things that surprise me are the synchronicities, and I think I've probably sent you a couple of messages over the time just about your podcast saying, oh, the synchronicities in that story are amazing. And yeah, for me, I've been a tradesman for 20 something years, and I came from the view of that we're all just stuck here randomly and we die and that's it. There's nothing else to it. We just live, we die, nothing else is real. And getting involved with that and this sort of work and feeling the energy. I mean, especially sitting in a group meditation, and some of those group intentions, I had some way out experiences. They're just incredible that I can tell people that I know pretty closely, but if I was to tell people at work, they'd be like, mate, you're off your head. Yeah,
that's right. You're telling thousands of people on a podcast, mate. Don't worry about it. But this is the thing, right? And this is what shits me, is the fact that when I've been on this journey a long time, obviously, and when I was starting to have experiences, like I witnessed you experience, right, many years ago, I'm thinking, why doesn't everyone know about this? Why isn't this common knowledge? Why isn't this a conversation that we can have without feeling like an outsider? It's ridiculous, because we're only talking about our own human potential. We're only talking about what the human a human being is absolutely capable of. And that's our given right. That's within each and every single individual that walks this planet. But yet we haven't been taught and we haven't been shown tools that can really help transform ourselves in a way and feel a connection to something greater than us that gives us the trust, the courage, the confidence to really step into who we really are and go and live our lives fully. Because that's what this is about, right? It's about embracing the day. It's waking up in the morning and going, you know what, today is a gift. I am so grateful I've got this life. I am so grateful the fact that I can turn the tap on and have a shower in the morning, or drink running water, or get in my car, or go to work, or actually have money to do things, and actually start to come from a place where we can really start to appreciate. And then things start to really flow. Things start to really shift in our favor once we get out of our own stories and get out of our own way, you know. But it can take us a huge journey to get there, right? Which blows my mind. And so let's dive a little bit deeper now. I want to make a caveat, because we do keep people, when they come to the retreat, the 3-day retreat, we keep everyone in the unknown. So we got to bear that in mind when we have the next conversation, because I want them to still be in the unknown for anyone listening to this that decides to come in January, right? But at the same time, you know, we can certainly talk about some experiences. How were you tell me, because you reached out to me a few weeks before the retreat, and I knew you were coming close to something, moving through something. So share, where were you at just before you came?
So just before I came, so we'd spent 5 weeks on the road just having a holiday, beautiful holiday. So magic up your way, beaches, sunshine, you name it. And we'd just come back to Melbourne to worst weather that they'd had all winter. And it was, you know, so it was a bit of a shock to the system. Over that period of time, and I suppose from probably the last 3 months, I'd been, or even the past year, and starting with your program and listening to some of your podcasts and trying some of these different modalities like tapping and that sort of thing. What I'd uncovered is this just constant low level of anxiety that I had in my life, which had always been there, and I'd recognised it in the past, but I'd sort of hadn't recognised it as much lately, and I'd sort of ignored it. So that was something I really wanted to get rid of. And in those couple of weeks beforehand, you know, I thought long and deep about it, and I'd been making some progress towards it. And I thought, okay, you know what, I'm just going to ask Guy if we can do a group intention on it, because I feel like now I really recognise it, and I can really recognise the root causes of it. I just want to blast it out, sort of thing. So, and you said, just wait to the retreat. And I was like, okay, this is good. This will be good. So completely took that on and thought, right, I will work towards that. But in the coming sort of those interim 2 weeks between returning home from the holiday and coming to the retreat, the best way I can describe myself was internally was like soup. I was like soup. There was all these different chunks of vegetables floating around, and I couldn't really tell them apart from each other, and I didn't really know what it was that was sort of getting to me. But yeah, certainly something there that it was I was really not shaken up, but emotions and feelings inside were really shook up. Yeah, ready to go.
Beautiful. And I want, before we move on, it's perfect what you said, actually, because you know, there's a famous metaphor of the caterpillar to the butterfly, right? And we kind of find this work quite often where we're a caterpillar when we don't even realize it, and then we crawl into our cocoon. But if you were to open the cocoon before it transformed into a butterfly, it's soup. It's mush. It's the whole thing is broken down. So there has to be chaos and disorder before the new order arises. That's just physics. That's the law. And quite often, as we start digging and delving closer and closer to our own personal breakthrough, or whatever that is with this work, we're getting closer and closer to that resistance point. So when I hear people knowing they start having a meltdown literally before, especially when you come closer to a retreat or something, because subconsciously going, oh my God, I'm going to have to face my fears. I'm going to have to do this and blah, blah, blah. Without even realizing it from the brain, I'm just like, gold. Brilliant. Keep going. The soup is good.
It's certainly given me a different perspective on it. I'll welcome it in now because of what can come from it. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you got there, and can you I'm trying to get it without giving too much away, I guess, but if you just come out to the 3 days and you were hanging out with somebody that was asking you, well, what did you feel? What happened? How did you change? Like, how would you explain it to someone? Because what I witnessed in you, mate, was amazing. And mate, we all saw it.
Yep. Well, well, thanks for that. That's awesome. Yeah. It was just great to actually feel it, but and you see it in other people too. But I did have a conversation with a mate who's actually in the group as well. And I said, he said, how was it? And I said, are you intending on going? And he said, I am. I said, well, I'll keep it short and sweet. And I said, I went with no expectations. I was, that feeling of being soup inside was just taking all my attention. So I actually had no expectations when I came to it. I had no idea what we were going to do. I just said, I'm going to be here and I'm committed to getting past whatever I'm feeling. And then I guess the best way I can describe it is that I don't want to make it sound like it's perfect, but when you
nothing's perfect.
No, but when you go with no expectations, it becomes perfect. And if you go, and like you say, you just sort of got to let go. I went there and I basically had a 3 or 4 day battle with my ego to try and let go. And the more I did just go, right, I'm here, I'm just give into it, the more perfect it became. Because the synchronicities just started to happen. Whoever you were next to or was talking to, it's just the perfect conversation at the perfect time. All the things that you guys facilitated, they all just slowly moved through, almost like a program, which is to break you open. And like I sort of came home. I was on the flight on the way home, and just sort of really wasn't unpacking anything, but I just had a burst of inspiration going like, oh man, I'm totally inspired by this. This is incredible, And I don't want to pump it up too much, but all I can say is if you go with no expectations, number one, they'll be exceeded whatever happens, but probably the best way to go, because you can pretty much have your mind blown. So
and I think as well, what people want to get across is the amount of energy that can start to move in these things. And I know, because I used to think like this. I used to think that was a metaphor. We raise our energy, we do some exercise, we get energy, but like we can shift some serious amounts of energy in a big way. And quite often we don't have, now this is neuroscience, right? We don't have receptor cells that have been trained to experience some of the emotions that we feel because of the energy that's lifted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we're not used to feeling unconditional love in our life and having these moments of this deep connection, like we would of having our newborn child for the first time, or even deeper states that are there, then the body doesn't recognize it. So if it doesn't recognize it, it doesn't know what it's to look for. So if it doesn't know what to look for, we don't use the muscles. So we have to train it, just like going to Pilates or something. Like it's the same thing. We have to train that and then all of a sudden, once it kicks in, we can then start to take those states back into our normal life, because we now have receptor cells that can actually know what to look for and start to experience these states. We started bringing it into our day more, which is
sorry. Well, that level of energy is like nothing I've experienced before. It was incredible. My 2 days later, I felt I actually felt my internal bone structure still vibrating from the energy. It was
Yeah.
incredible.
What do you
And it,
think you've, like, from the work, from starting, you know, on your journey, then coming into Let It In, coming into the membership, and then going to the retreat and where you're at now, what do you think you've sort of learned to let go of move through to allow you to continue on this path of exploration?
the biggest thing, I mean, it's always fear that you're having to let go of. It doesn't matter how many layers you peel off, there's always fear underneath it. That's what I've found anyway. But one of the biggest things I've learned is just to have, it's just to have faith that if I continue on down this path, then it's going to lead. It's led me to where it's led me now, which is so much better than life was beforehand. And I just have the faith to believe that it'll continue. And that's a big one for me, because there's been times in my life where I've had just a knowing that's going to happen, and then it's eventually happened. They've been few and far between, but now I sort of go into each day or each week with the knowing that I'm going to be sort of, the universe is going to look after me in some respect, you know what I mean? And then and that helps lose the fear.
Yeah.
And whatever situation I'm in is the right situation to be in, because there'll be a lesson there.
Yeah, totally. And what do you think that, with that kind of knowing and understanding that quite often we live life from fear-based decisions and starting to become comfortable of making growth-based decisions? And, you know, because we need challenges, otherwise we wouldn't grow. We would just get lazy. I know I do. I need to rocket up my ass half the time. But as long as it's there, I keep moving forward, you know, to overcome those fears. I mean, do you think about, as you start to learn and know this work and know that there's way many more layers to unveil, right? That you can go much deeper with this, what life would look like 12 months from now, 24 months from now, 5 years from now.
What do I think it would look like?
Yeah, do you think of those things? Yeah.
Yeah, I do, yeah. I mean, the life I'm living now, I envisaged 2 years ago. And when I first came up with the idea of that's how I want to live, I didn't believe it. But I just kept pushing. And I thought, I'm going there. That's what I'm doing. I need to break out of what I'm doing. And now that I'm here, yeah, it's a beautiful life that I'm living. But in terms of purpose, I feel there's more. I want more purpose in my life. So then I've now got the vision of the next 12 months to 24 months. And yeah, and that was another thing, coming home on the plane after the retreat. It was like I looked in my hand and I had all these, you know, before I left to go to the retreat, I would look in my hand and I had all these pieces to the puzzle, but I just had no idea how they went together, because they're just random pieces. And it was like someone handed me the actual box that the puzzle came in on the way home. And then I just opened up the box and saw the picture and went, ha ha ha, I've got all those pieces. I'm going home to do this, you know? It was just the clarity to just, yeah, sort of blast all that other stuff out of me, and then have that picture of clarity on the way home. Was like, oh, this is incredible.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And what would you say to anyone listening to this that might have a yearning for more? They might have an itch they can't scratch. They're sitting on the fence. They're debating whether to jump into Let It In Academy online, or they come to the retreat and just go all in. Like, what would you say to that person that was on the fence?
Just to if you're even considering it, it's just I mean, for me, I just dive in. If I hit a block, or I'm sort of on the fence and not sure which way to go, just dive into something new, just to feel what it's like to have something new in your life, you know?
Yeah.
And in terms of joining the group, just jump into that as well, because there's a support network there, you know. And if that's one thing I realised from the retreat, that a lot of people don't know a lot of people who are into this sort of work. And I was like that myself, but I've slowly reached out to people and they sort of built up a little community of my own. If you're unsure about stepping into this sort of work because of the fear of being ridiculed or or not being accepted, then you can step into something like your community and be embraced. And then from there, you're only going to grow, and you just learn so much from other people who are at different stages in their journey, and you can just, yeah, it's an excellent, it's such a good group to be involved in. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm determined to make this the new norm. So we'll just keep going with it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. No, you'll get there, I'm sure.
And I just want to mention before we wrap up the podcast as well, Luke, and I know like on your transition, you started a podcast this year, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So tell us about it. What's it called?
So the podcast is called 100 Meditators. So that's 100 as in the numbers and meditators. And there's also a Instagram page that goes along with it. And that was something I'd conjured up at the start of the year to get myself involved with other people that meditate, and actually give me the ability to deepen my practice and learn from them. What do they do? So the podcast and that page started around trying to normalize it, and also just get ordinary people involved. There's no real gurus in there. We're all just everyday people who've come from different backgrounds and do ordinary jobs, and got their own perspective. And I find personally that learning from your peers is probably one of the best ways to learn as well, because you can really understand what they're talking about. Yeah,
good on you. And you're enjoying the podcast journey?
Yeah, look, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I'm much respect to how many you've done. It's a lot of work, and it's a challenge. But yeah, each time I do one, I come away with just more knowledge, and I feel better for actually sort of putting something into the world. And the goal was to at least help one person in it in some way, and that's been achieved pretty quickly.
I was going to say, I'm sure you've achieved that by now, for sure.
Yeah.
Mate.
So yeah, it's I'm enjoying the process. Yeah. And like a challenge, like I sit in a crane and pull levers all day. I barely speak. So now I'm sort of interviewing people about it. So yeah, it's nice to push yourself out of the comfort zone. Totally. I tell you, like for me, podcasting has been hugely challenging and rewarding at the same time. And I'll certainly going to keep going for a whole lot longer as well. So look, I just want to give you a shout out, mate, and just acknowledge for everything you do, because I've seen the courage, the determination, and you're stepping into your true self, which isn't easy. And from what I witnessed at the retreat as well, was just beautiful. And yeah, I know you inspired a lot of people there as well. And and congrats on everything you're doing, mate, and starting a podcast as well and moving forward, because again, it's easy to say I'll do that, and then we leave it and it passes on. So I definitely encourage everyone to check out your podcast, mate. 100 Meditators. I'll make sure I link in the show notes. Yep.
Also, people can find you on iTunes and of course Instagram as well. So get amongst it, support Luke. I appreciate it. Thanks,
cheers,
buddy.
Man. Yeah, much respect. Thanks for the support and the kind words. Beautiful.
No worries, man. No worries. Thanks for coming on, Luke. You'll inspire many people today. You really will. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks.